91.5 KTMC, the men's circle.
The kind of circle your grandfather would be proud of.
Quick disclaimer for this podcast. It is a podcast. Our intended audience is for men. However, we encourage anybody to watch, no matter what you identify as. But our opinions are of a male perspective, and we just hope we don't trigger you in the process. It's not our intent, but if it happens, we apologize. And I think that's pretty much it. Our opinions are our own. Our guests' opinions are their own, and
We're broadcasting out of Los Angeles, occupied Tungva territory. We want to go ahead and acknowledge the people of this land, the original people of this territory, this nation that we reside on. We are visitors here. I want to acknowledge that, but I also want to acknowledge my tradition as an Apache. So, that's what we do.
So,
okay,
we are
go
here
for
today with our guest, Jorge. Jorge's gonna...
What's up, Jorge?
Hey, what's up?
Hello, Jorge.
Yeah,
Can we call you Georgie?
go for it.
See, I'll float down here, Georgie.
We're here for some really good discussion today. Jorge's going to bring up some great topics, so I'm going to let him dive into that right now. Go ahead and let everybody know who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, how you're going.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. Lucas has been sending me the podcasts every time the podcast is put out, and I watched it, and it's good. You men are putting out some good stuff.
Thank you.
A lot of women would disagree with you.
Well, it's a men's circle, right? Not a women's circle.
That is true.
So, so a little bit about myself. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a householder. Been married now to my wife since 1999.
Whoa,
Sacred.
Oh,
Tradition.
It's been a while, but but we've been through our ups and downs, right? And there was even a time where we actually went through a divorce.
Oh, wow.
So we've been married already like 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 times.
Sacred.
One more. The first time true story is because we went to go do like some MacArthur Park paperwork stuff, and so then they said, no, you got to go back and do it again. So that was the second time.
Oh, okay.
But then
So
the third
technically-
time was after like we went through a divorce, and then we reunited, and our relationship has been a lot stronger after that.
All right.
That's beautiful.
And it was really like around the time that we started this whole process of separation and divorce, that it put me on a journey to try and better myself. That's really what it was about. It was about bettering myself. But it really came like that answer came to me through a prayer, and because it was such a hard experience for me, like when my family was splitting apart, and seeing my kids like half of the week, and then having to be a single dad, and dad's weekends and mom's weekends, and it was hard. It was really hard. And when I was first going through that whole process of separation, I was really going through a lot of heartache. It was like probably one of the most difficult things that I've been through in my life. And it was like at that point where it was like one of my lows in my life that I had some relatives that said, hey, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna go pray, let's go. I said, all right, let's go. So I went out there and I prayed, and when I came back, it's funny because I was like expecting like, things are gonna be fixed. I went on this like prayer, and it's like it's gonna be fixed, we're good. But it didn't turn out that way, right?
That's always the case, right? Like we think we're just gonna do like one thing, and it's just gonna like make everything better now.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I came back and I was like,
can I ask what kind of ceremony? Or
yeah, it was a Sundance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a Sundance, and we went with you.
Tradition.
And I came back and I remember I was telling my wife, hey, well, guess what? For you, for you. And she was like, Like, I don't care. Like, like you and me done. So it was hard, right? And then, and then it was like it was really a reality check. It was humbling, and then that it's like it's not just about putting together the prayer and like going to the altar and like just putting it there. Like it also took work. So but even through that, right? So I came back, and then like I get a sheriff knocks on my door like a few days later. Sheriff is serving me up divorce papers. Like, oh, here you go. Getting served. Sign this paper. You're getting acknowledged that you're getting served. And I was like, oh, why it's in Kashla? Why me? And so then it's like, and then not long after that, DCFS is knocking on my door.
Oh man.
And then it's like, oh man, like my children. And then but the cool thing about it is that the DCFS, he shows up, and it was kind of like dealing with a police officer. He had his sunglasses on. He like, no mustache, like, fully shaved face, and he was like all serious. And it's like what we call having his mask on. He had his mask on, and he was like with his clipboard. He was like, yeah, looking around and everything, asking me questions, taking notes, right? And then he saw that I was really having a hard time though, and I was like, look, man, I'm really trying. Like, I just want to get my family back together. Like, that's all I want. And then he's like, oh. And then after, like, when he was done with his whole inspection, he lowered his sunglasses and he was like, look, man, I know you're having a hard time. He says, I want you to call this man. Wrote a number on a little piece of paper, on the little corner of the paper, and then he tore it out. He said, I want you to call this man. His name's Santana, Ed Santana. And then, so I called Santana, and Santana was like, yeah, man, we have a men's circle, we meet every week. And we're like committed, and come check it out. I said, all right. He said, be ready Tuesday, 7 p.m. sharp, I'll be at your house. I was like, all right. Oh, wow. So you know me, I get ready, I'm like, it's like 6:59, I'm like barely walking outside, this was already pulling up, like, let's go. I was like, oh damn, all right. Sharp means sharp.
Yeah.
So we go and we go out to the park, and then it's like, it was just a bunch of men sitting around in a circle. Like, men busted out their cigars, they started smoking cigars, and it was something different about it, right? And I was like, what are these men doing? Like, it was like,
like indigenous.
No, these men were not. These men were brown, most of them, but philosophy-wise, they weren't indigenous. They didn't identify as indigenous, right? They were Latinos, and, Hispanics,
but still practicing a very like indigenous thing, right? Like where the men come together, smoke tobacco, right?
Yeah.
Like it's still very much like something
in that
native
sense. In that sense.
Mm.
But like these men were just smoking cigars.
Yeah. I'm just making that core like, whether they realized it.
Like what a coincidence,
You know?
Like,
they were practicing something.
Yeah.
It's like making tamales on Christmas.
True. So anyways, and I'm like looking around. I had my judgments about it. I'm like, what are these men doing? Like, these men are like, this motherfucker doesn't have his shoes on. Like, this one wants to like kick up his feet on his chair. But at the end of the meeting, something felt right about it. Right, and I was like, all right, something about this, like, even though like these men are like quirky or like they got their like, I got my judgments about it, like something felt right. So I went back the following week, and then the following week, we were circling up, and then they gave me time. So I guess whoever runs the meeting put time on the agenda for me, probably like 45 minutes, an hour, or whatever. Oh, I don't know how much. Like, I was new. Like, this is my first time there. And so they said, hey, we call each other by our last names. Hey, Rosado. So tell us what's going on. And I started the whole story. Going through a divorce, but it's all right. I'm good. I feel good. I'm gonna be all right. My kids are having a hard time, but I'm gonna be all right. And then they were just like, but I was hiding, right? Like, I was really keeping a mask on from like what was really going on inside. And these men were able to sniff it out. They sniffed it out. I remember one of the men, like, he took a it was like cold at night. I had 1 gallon jug of water, and like, that food snatched it from me. He like poured it on my head. He's like, wake up! Like, is this really what you want for your kids? I'm like, whoa, like, what's going on? And then and like, I couldn't connect to, like, they were trying to like slap some sense into me at the moment, right? Because I was like not connected. I wasn't connected to my feelings. I wasn't connected to like what was at stake for me at that time. I was just like trying to play it off as like cool Zen, and that wasn't correct, because that wasn't really serving my kids, or that wasn't really serving the purpose of me trying to get my family back together. Right? It was just me like being
You
just
weren't
very
allowing yourself to
passive.
be vulnerable.
What's up?
You weren't allowing yourself to be
I
vulnerable.
wasn't allowing myself to be vulnerable, correct, and that's what the men were detecting. And so what really got me is that the men circled up and they're like, I want you to look around the circle here and pick the man that most represents your son when your son is 25. So I looked around and I picked a man. I was like, all right. And they all circled around me and they like,
Like they knew the drill already, huh?
yeah,
They've done this before.
Yeah, they've done this before. I'd never done it. I'd never done it. So I'm standing with like, inside of a circle, men surrounding me, and one man standing in front of me, and the man said, "This is your son when he's 25. What are you gonna tell him?" And like at that moment, bro, I just broke down. Like I started bawling. I was trying to speak to my son Victor when he's like 25, and trying to tell him about what I'm going through at this moment, and I was just like, like it was.
That sounds like a very powerful exercise.
How old was Victor at the time?
Oh, Victor was like probably 8, 9.
Wow. Question. So the circle, what's the age category? Like how many? Like what's the level?
There's men like
Okay.
Like I've seen old men. I've seen men that are so old that like we just lost a man like a week ago. That he was like in his 80s. He's lived a long life. We've lost a couple of men this year as well that have been doing this work for a long time. So so I had that moment, and I finally allowed myself to grieve, and not hold it in, not hold back. And it was after that it was like, okay, I get it. Like I got to keep coming back. This is where it's at. This is because even though I just grieve right now, like I feel so much better. I don't know if this is the answer to my prayer, but like this is where I got to be. So
had you been to like indigenous men's circles prior to this?
Yeah, I'd been to I'd been going to lodge like since I was like young,
But this had something that was
like this had like very intentional. Like what happens is, like in ceremony is usually more organic, and it's like we have to like want to bring it to like be able to leave it there. But for me, like at that time I didn't know about being vulnerable. Right, so if I'm saying, nah, I'm cool, I'm good, I'm not gonna bring it in ceremony.
Right. Yeah.
Right, but when it's very intentional and the men are like, yo, we gotta take care of this man. Excuse me, we gotta take care of this man. He's suffering. He's like going through all kinds of stuff, but he doesn't know how to be vulnerable. So we're gonna help him. Bring your son into the middle right here. Talk to your son. What are you gonna tell your son about where you're at today at this moment? Oh, I started crying, right? And then it was not long after that the men told me, hey, there's a men's weekend, there's this initiation event. I want you to go check it out. And I was like, all right, I'm in. Like after having experienced that, like I'm in. I'm gonna go check it out. So I went to go do the men's weekend, and coming back from the men's weekend, that whole experience was transformational. Like I still have tools today that I use from the men's weekend about being in a relationship with my wife. If it wasn't for the men's weekend, like my wife and I would have never gotten back together. I would be saying that relationship lasted only 10 years and we got married in 1999 and it ended in 2010. But the fact that I can tell you, like, my wife and I are still married today since 1999 is like that men's weekend was pivotal in helping that happen.
I wrote a question down here saying, could you have gotten to the point you are in your marriage without that divorce?
No, we had to go through it. Yeah, we had to go through it.
Did you tell your wife what you guys did? Like, was that part of it, or was it something you kind of kept to yourself, but you said like I'm working on myself?
No, so I like during that time that that we were going through the whole separation, my wife wasn't ready to have open conversations with me. She wasn't open to be in the same space with me, and because when we would, either two things would happen. One, I was telling her how much I needed her and how much I wanted her back and please come back. I was being needy. Or two, we would fight. You know, we would fight, and I was being a victim. And when I was being a victim, I was like, look at what you did to me, and all because of you, and that wasn't helping her, right? But in my mind, I was trying to fix the relationship. And that's one of the things that I learned there at the men's weekend. Like, the more that a man tries to fix the relationship, the more that he messes up the relationship. Because that's not our skill set. That's like, as men, we're not wired to manage and, you know, take care of relationships. That's just not how we're wired, right? So, that was mind blowing. Like, when I first heard that, I was like, oh my God. So here I've been doing this whole time. Like, I swore that I was going to fix this relationship, and now it made sense. Like, why my wife would feel more. I was repulsive to her. I wasn't attractive. I was repulsive to her when I was coming from that place. And I was on top of that, like, with all the hurt and the pain, it was neediness and vindictiveness, and you know, it wasn't healthy, and it wasn't toxic. So after I did the men's weekend, and I started, and that's like really where I started doing the real deep work on myself, where I started giving her space and said, all right, you know, whatever she wants to do, like if she feels that like this relationship is over, you know, whatever she does with her time is her business, and I have no control over that. Like, I had to come to that point of like surrender. I had to surrender to that. And once I surrendered to that and just allowed her to be and just go on her journey, you know, I was able to move on myself and like continue growing. And so I kept on doing, you know, men's work in the men's circle, and like working on myself and learning how to be a better father. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, one day when I'm ready for another long-term committed relationship, whatever woman is going to come into my life at that point, I'm going to really give her the best that I got. And I didn't know who that woman was going to be. And so fast forward, my wife finally came to a point where she was like, hey, you know, I'm really sorry for what happened. I didn't mean to ever hurt you. This is like, granted, like this is already like a year after, like we had been just like, I had given her space. And then she was like, I'm sorry that all that ever happened, and I just want to let you know that I take ownership for my part. And I was like, wow, like, I wasn't expecting that. And I remember I went home that night and I was thinking, and then like 2 nights later I called her back, and by this point I'm like, I'm ready to like start settling down again. I'm ready to like have a long-term committed relationship again. So when she brought that to me, that was just like I wasn't expecting. Timing was right. And so then I called her and I said, hey, you know what? I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to have a long-term committed relationship again. And if you ever had an idea of us being able to work things out again and be in a relationship again, now's the time. And she said, all right, let's do it. And I was like, whoa, okay. So what do we do next? Like that, I
just go on a date.
Well, yeah, no, but like this is I took this back to the men's circle. Like all those steps and everything that happened in between. Right, I took it back to the men. It's like, hey, yo, man, she told me that she takes accountability for her part. And the men were like, damn, you see, like that's big. That's the result of the work that you're doing. And then I came back, hey, I told her if we want to work things out. And she says, yeah. And the men were like, all right, so now we got to put together a game plan. What's the game plan going to be? And it's like, all right, so we got to...
See, that's total men thinking, right?
Yeah. How we're breaking
like, okay, cool. All right, now we're going to break it down, section by section. You go left, you go right, I'll go right up the middle.
So that we can succeed. Yeah, right? Because success, that's what we're wired for. We're wired for success, right? And we define success. Like, as a man, each individual man defines what success is to him. And in the world and culture of men, in the hierarchy of men, like, the more successful that a man is in whatever his craft is, the more that he has access to resources, and that's what makes him more attractive. You know, unfortunately, like, I hate to say it like that, but like it's true, right? So, but like, you know, like a man who works on himself, a man who is very sure of himself, self-actual. It doesn't matter if he's like what he does. It doesn't matter what the man does. Like, as long as the man is like, this is what I do, and I love doing it, and I'm living my purpose. like that man is going to be attractive to somebody. And that man is going to be successful, and that man is going to be able to raise good kids, because the man is just like so self-actualizing himself, regardless of what he does. But the man is successful, right? So we define our own success, and we follow that, and we live life with purpose. But you know, so the men said, you know, what are we going to do? All right. So it was start dating again. And then it was so start dating, couples therapy.
Did you kind of take it slow? Was it like
Yeah.
a very kind of walking on eggshells at first?
It was. We did take it slow. We
Started
did.
over from the beginning, right?
Started over from the beginning. I started dating her
Learn
again.
about each other.
Yeah. Started dating her again. Started like falling in love with her all over again. And
You weren't like, oh, we're just gonna get married.
no. Right, but like the old me would have just shot me and said, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
That would have been the old me, but no. So then we went through like almost like about a year before we remarried.
Wow.
And even like when we were dating, true story, this was probably like one of the greatest moments that I remember about that time, is that we were dating, and then you know, the kids knew that mom was dating somebody. They didn't know who it was.
Oh wow.
And so the kids were like, oh, mom's going on
That's so
date.
cool.
That is cool. That's
You
super.
know, boys already building up animosity. Fucking guy.
Stepdad.
I'm calling him dad, all right?
You're my dad.
And so when her and I would go off, and I'd be like, hey, so what did the kids say about you dating? You know, I haven't told them yet, but they're not too happy that I'm dating. And then I would tell her, all right.
That's so great.
So when we got to that point, we're like, I think we're ready to move to the next step, right? Let's introduce the kids to your date. And so that one night, she tells the kids, I'm going to introduce you to my date. I think it's ready. I'm feeling very serious about this man, and I want you kids to meet. And so I was like, I show up, and it's me. You know, like, oh, it's me.
What the hell's dad doing here?
Dad, you better leave right
This
now.
dude's about to come. Your replacement's about to come. Yeah. Wow.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
that was
pretty cool.
man.
Should have done it over dinner, like as if you just stumbled upon them. You know what I mean? Like at a like having dinner or something.
Like, they're still expecting her date to show up.
Yeah.
So is he gonna be here? Is he running late?
So
That's
what
cool.
happened
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then we figured out, like, we went to couples therapy after that, and then we did like, I don't know, like probably like 6 months of couples therapy, and then we moved back together and we got married, and the really, you know, the beautiful part about it is that I've seen my wife also do work on herself. Like she has taken on a lot of like self-healing work, and my wife is like, she's an amazing woman. She's beautiful, and I'm really proud of her, because there was, Shorty, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I just gotta say this. Like there was a time when my wife didn't want to look at these things, and you know, she came from her childhood was rough. There was domestic violence, there was alcoholism. And she had a hard time just being able to trust, period. Trust, a lot of hurt. And when we were younger, and when things like this would come up, like, you know, there was a lot of trust issues. There was a lot of, how do we open back up after, like, you know, maybe I said something hurtful, but now she's hurt for like 5 weeks or whatever.
Right, she's holding it.
Yeah, holding it, right? And it's like, oh man, like we don't know how to navigate through that. Like, we don't have the tools, right? So,
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I don't know. Hold on.
It's already, I don't see it on anymore.
Okay, press the top button. There's a record red button on top. I forgot about. She said there's a setting that every 30 minutes it shuts off, and she has. I don't know how to change. I don't know how to mess with it. It's not my camera.
We're catching it on the.
Yeah, we're catching on the iPad, so it works out. But press the top red, little tiny red button
I
on
did.
top. Press it twice. Make sure the record thing's on.
Now it's recording.
Okay, sorry about that.
So whatever I didn't catch.
Yeah. That's what she did last time. She had to merge them because of that same
The
reason.
only thing is,
So-
this is so flimsy. It's kind of like when you guys shake your.
Oh,
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll try not to.
It's kind of a.
It's all right. We're gonna mostly use that one. So just every periodically keep looking at that one to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, no worries. No worries.
Apologize about that.
So you know, she from day, like,
Be careful with that, I think women watching.
it's all right. That's all right. Men lead, right? So like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that all you brothers here would know that like, you're gonna ask a woman to be your girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna ask her to,
For the next step.
yeah, come out to the dance floor to dance with you if you want to dance.
I've never done that.
Or
Weird exception.
hey, what's your number?
Gangsters don't dance, they do.
The-
I think I've asked. I'm not even sure.
Right? If they, you know, if you don't put that first step forward, if that first foot forward, like you can't expect for a woman to. There's some that will, and that's okay. You know, but normally it's usually the man that leads, right? And in a relationship, and but like also just like I don't know, I guess normally organically the way we're wired, I don't know, whatever, we lead, and I think like for me, like in having had led that work and in taking care of myself and becoming a better husband, a better father, like my wife has followed also, and she's gone on her journey but has also followed, and as a result, you know, she brings gifts and I bring gifts to the table, and like we all benefit from all of that, like our children, our parents, our, you know, our siblings on, you know, both sides, and then even us together. It's awesome.
So I got a quick question. What were some of the biggest takeaways that you got from that weekend?
From the men's weekend?
Yeah.
Damn.
So you keep saying like I always got, you know, I got these tools.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the tools.
Yeah,
what were some of the things that like
so,
that you use, you know, that you found yourself using?
Right. So here's what I'm gonna have to caveat the men's weekend with. So the men's weekend is confidential. It's highly confidential. What happens,
okay.
Right? So that's like the first thing that they tell us, like, all right,
can't talk about it.
You're in confidentiality. Like, oh hey, guess what? That's confidential. Shut the hell up. You know? All right.
Okay.
And so, but one of the things, the way that we hold confidentiality is that you know, the specifics, what a man shares. You know, if he did this or if he did that, we don't share the specifics, the names, the places, but we share the gift. So there's a gift that came from that lesson. What is that gift? And so I'm going to do my best to talk about the men's weekend without breaking confidentiality, but still being able to share the gifts. So probably one of the biggest ones that I took away from the men's weekend is a thing called terms. And the men's weekend didn't come up with terms. And I'll also say this, like, I know that there's going to be men that are watching that have done the men's weekend as well. That the men's weekend, everything that the men's weekend teaches men, it doesn't belong to the men's weekend. It doesn't belong to the people who put that on. Because all that is knowledge that has been put together, but it's like a lot of it's ancestral knowledge and cultural knowledge from a lot of different cultures and peoples, and it's like they bring it to like one place, and it's really focused and like energized, like right there at that place. So that being said, terms. So terms is the definition is the sum total of your masculine identity. So how do you identify as a man? Right? Maybe like for me personally, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man that's on the red road, and for me those are going to be my terms. And so usually what happens is that in relationships where there isn't a high level of maturity, men get tested on their terms all the time.
Wow.
So
That's real, right?
right. So you can imagine like say for example, like I hadn't done the men's weekend, I would have never gotten remarried to my woman, and I would have still been like just like the same hurt kid inside, not having had done healing, right? And I'm not connected to my terms, but I know that I love my children. But like I didn't know what terms are, so it's like I know I love my children. I'm in a relationship with a woman, and the level of maturity is not there, and she says, you know what, you're spending too much time with your kids. So then I have to make that choice, right? Like I could either say, hey, well, the door's right there. See ya. I'm not changing that. If you want to continue, I'm going to continue seeing my kids like at the level that I do now or more. And you can stay here or you can go if you want. Or I could make the choice like, oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. Like, all right, I'm gonna see my kids a little less and spend more time with you. You see, because
Wrong answer.
exactly. But like for a man who doesn't know what terms are or isn't connected to his terms, because one of the things that like, all right. So here's another.
It's funny, so we were going over this kind of a conversation, not in the focus of terms, but like, what were we calling it? Like our deal breakers.
Yeah,
Deal breakers.
breakers.
Deal breakers.
That's exactly. They're boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries,
Yes.
deal breakers,
And that-
terms.
That was like one of mine. Like, yo,
Yeah, that's-
my partner has to be good with my children.
Mhm.
If you're not good with the fact that like I have kids, you're out of here.
The-
You know what I mean?
is the
Like,
door.
That's just that. Yeah, there's just no room for somebody.
There's no room for compromise.
Exactly.
When it
Not
comes-
on that one.
When it
Not on
comes,
that
well, yeah, when it comes to your terms.
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have like a skill set to identify your terms? Because as you say this, I'm feeling like, dang, I haven't really came to terms with my terms and having a hard time in the moment thinking about like, damn, do I identify with my?
Well, just think purely of the definition. And the definition is it's the sum total of your masculine identity. Your terms are not, you know, as men, we're not complicated. We're very simple. So you should be able to count your terms on like one hand. My kids, the red road, my family. Like anything else, like I can't really think of anything else beyond that. And probably like living life purposefully, like having a purpose, like for me. And so they're very simple. And my wife, you know, she gets behind that, and she supports me in living purpose and taking care of our children.
Your terms.
I haven't gone and told her, hey, these are my terms, but I just live them.
She knows them because she knows you.
Because she knows me. Yeah, because she knows me.
She would be somebody to hold you accountable to your terms. Right?
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah, okay, but accountability, like in the men's circle, that's supposed to come from the men. Yeah, that's supposed to come from the men. So the men are the ones that are going to hold me accountable. The men are it's going to be Tanishkoya, it's going to be like, hey, what's up? Rosado, you said that you were da-da-da, and you ain't doing it. You ain't keeping palabra. And so then I got to like either step up or leave. Or leave, right? And say, you know, he's going to be like, you can't be here, bro. You ain't going to be over here showing up like that.
Right.
So, but my wife will do the same thing, right? Because my wife is very mature, and if she sees like that, like
You're slipping.
yeah, she's gonna be like, Charlie, homie,
Get the couch.
but yeah. So terms, and then the other thing that I wanted to share with you, man, about the terms is that you know, so we're tested on them depending on the maturity level of the relationship. We're constantly tested on our terms, and when we hold to our terms and we could say, hey, you know what, this is the boundary, and you could either go, but I'm not going to step over that line right there. And then you know, your partner is going to have to make a decision. She's going to say, okay, I'm gonna respect that, or she's going to be like, yeah, all right, bye, have a good life, and that's okay. So what happens is that when we do sell out our terms, when we say, oh yeah, so the other thing is, why do we sell out our terms? So in relationships, right? This is also more wisdom that I've taken from like being in the men's circle. In relationships, to a woman, the relationship, having a monogamous relationship, monogamous relationship is like, that's like very important to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like probably like number one in a relationship.
Right.
Your woman's not gonna be cool with you having, like having the side, you know.
Loyalty. Yeah.
So the monogamous relationship is okay. So, but to men, one of the things that's really important to men is sex, intimacy, and at the same level that a woman values monogamy, the man values sex, intimacy. So,
But not monogamously?
no, monogamy is not really our thing.
Right.
We have to if we want to live honorably.
All right.
Right? And if we want to be a good example for our kids. But if it wasn't for that, like, you know, you can have all the sex you want with all the women you want. Like, who's to stop you?
No, you can't.
No, you're right.
Not anymore. You can't.
I mean,
You're right.
you can with
You
consequences.
can, not like you can just go take whoever you want. You have to put in work. But, you know, you're gonna have to make that work if that's the life that you want. Right? So the thing about terms is that, like, when we're tested on them is that because sex is really important to men, Like the minute that the sex dries up, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop seeing my children because now I'm not gonna get any more sex. Right, so that's where the terms, like, where we could compromise our terms, and so then already, like, a relationship like that, we already know is toxic. It's not really going to go anywhere. Eventually, it's going to end, and when it ends, the amount of pain that a man feels from that relationship having had ended is going to be proportional to the amount that a man sold out his terms.
Oh, can you
You
like?
say that one more time.
Yeah.
Say that a little slower because a lot of guys out there need to hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that one. I'm right here.
Specifically me.
So the amount of pain that you feel because the relationship has ended is going to be proportional to the amount that you sold out your terms.
Wow.
I can
Proportion.
That one.
Yeah.
I sold out my terms with somebody I really valued, and the pain that I felt was incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Damn. Are you crying?
It's
a little, yeah.
Inside, yeah.
Wow, that's You know what? Because even in terms of like one of the biggest things that I hear from men when relationships end is like what we did, right? Like, oh man, I did this for her. I did this for her. And you feel so like
your investment.
Like, yeah. How could I have I did all of this only to end up with this? You know, only to end up in this situation.
Yeah.
You know, so man, that really
It's home.
that hit way home.
So that's an example of and the men's weekend, they gave us a shitload too. That's just one of them. That was it runs for freaking almost 72 hours, and that was probably 2 hours worth of men's weekend stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So I would suggest for you men to check it out. Now the thing so I've been doing this work since 2010, right? And I've been in the men's circles that I've been involved in have 501c7 corporations, so they're incorporated. They receive contributions from members. I've been a dues paying member for a long time. And the dues go towards putting on training events for doing social gatherings and stuff like that. But what's been difficult about opening up about this work that I do with a lot of my brothers that are that I know from Sundance or the ceremony walk is that there's a lot of pain amongst our people around white people. And a lot of these circles, there's a lot of white men there.
Yeah, I get white fatigue hella quick.
Yeah. I can see that.
And a lot of these men that are part of these circles, I've had to get in their faces and educate. I hate to say it, but call them out for the shit that they're saying or doing. Yo, man, what you're doing and saying isn't correct. And it's very draining. And I don't feel comfortable for my brothers of the community to have to come into that kind of space and have to work through all that shit, But
so how can we recreate that for ourselves?
Or is that a thing that maybe you're working on?
Shit, that's a great question, man. That's a question that I've been talking to.
I mean, you have 21 years of experience,
No, 11. It's 2021.
Oh, 2010.
don't.
Somebody's not a mathematic. Somebody's not living up to his ancestors.
It's all but that side right there. It's not a good job.
The Mashika fell short on the math.
But so that's the question that I've been in for a while, right? I've been thinking about that question myself. I honestly don't think that I could recreate the energy and the experience that the men's weekend offers. So I would tell all my brothers go check out the men's weekend, and then once you come back from the men's weekend, let's have our circle. And then once we have our circle, let's also see how we can integrate with these other circles because they're doing work and they're putting on events and they're fundraising and how can we show that we're part of the same community? Because a lot of the gifts and a lot of those tools, we need to take those to our people.
Yeah.
We don't man, it's at this I come outside my house and it's I see all the alcoholism that's there, it's present. Like the violence is there and it's present. And it's really hard to reach my own people because they're just like, at least on my block, it's really hard to reach my people because they would rather be drinking and partying than like really working on themselves and like doing something better for their families and for. But what happens is that when we come to a fireplace and when we come to where there's like brothers that are doing ceremony, like we're above that. Like we're the reason why we're at the fire is because we chose not to open up a bottle of beer on Saturday night. Because we chose not to go to the club on a Saturday night. We chose to come to where the drum is at. We chose to come to where the fire is at. And I think that those men that are looking for that, like that is where we could start with creating a circle. But like we gotta have tools.
I think that's incredibly relevant because I've been going to ceremonies since I was 13. You know, like I've been in and out of lodge, a lot of Lakota centered ceremonies, some Mexica ceremonies, and a lot of people who take on leadership roles, myself included, have made mistakes that you just don't anticipate somebody who has a leadership role in these ceremonies to make. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, man, you've been doing Sundance for how many years, and you still made this mistake. You know what I mean? Like, you've been doing ceremony for this many years, and you still like did that. You know what I mean? Like outside the realm of which you would see somebody who's been doing this for so long to do. But maybe if we had these teachings, these tools, you know what I mean? Like we find ourselves as Native people in a lot better position or condition than we're in now.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, you know, we're just common man.
Yeah.
You know,
We make mistakes.
Uncle Tony right there.
all the time, bro.
Uncle
Yeah,
Tony right
exactly.
there.
Exactly. Yeah, we're common man, and I draw a lot. I draw so much wisdom from him, man. Like,
Yeah.
I love him so much, man.
I
Like,
love hearing him talk.
He gives us so much wisdom, and he you know, he'll like teach us and he'll share with us teachings and history, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like this is one of the things that I learned at the men's weekend, or this is one of the things that we talk about in the men's circle. Like it all comes together, you know. So yeah, man, it's pretty awesome. It's a matter of doing work, man. It's a matter of doing work. There's one brother. So here's the thing, right? The men's weekend. As a Native brother who has a lot of pain around the colonization of our people, you might walk away from the men's weekend pissed. You might walk away from it. You might wait, and if I sponsor you, you're gonna come back. You might want to punch me in the face.
Wow.
But like 2 years later, you're gonna be thinking, oh, God damn, that shit was like fuck. And it happened. It happened with one of my bros, Mateo Solosi. He's the one that was hosting that
The
Instagram, the host of that one.
Yeah.
So he was going through a hard time, and he was like, "Oh, bro, I don't know what to do." It's like, "All right, bro, get ready. We're gonna go through this, and you're gonna do the men's weekend." All right. So he did that, and then he went to this men's weekend. And when I went to go pick him up, he was just like, "What was that?" But fast forward to today, like the reason that he did that instant Voices of Sun, like that came from him having had done this.
Oh, okay.
And like we talk about the men's weekend all the time. He's like, oh man, like he tells me like, oh, so and so, one of this brother that I know, man, he's going, and it's like, oh my God, this is going through a lot. This is having a hard time. When he shares with me what's going on, and it's like he needs his men's weekend. Like that man needs his men's weekend. And so he knows, he sees the value in it. So that's what I would say to like any brother that like wants to go check it out, that is open to it, that has struggled with the colonization. Like just set that aside for the next 72 hours and just open up your heart to go see what the men's weekend offers and bring that back so we can give back to our people.
Question: do you have to? Is there like a prerequisite to participate in it, or is that something you just sign up for? Or how does that work?
You gotta be 23 years old.
That's the only prerequisite. 23.
23 years old and like not having any mental conditions.
For all the 23-year-old men out there that are interested.
Or plus 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, 23. Like, and I see like when I did my men's weekend, like I remember there were men that were like grandfather age that were there, and there was like they're like even just talking about it right now, man, I'm remembering a lot of stuff. One of the things that that another one of the things from the men's weekend that was like valuable was what they called removing of the arrows, right? So the concept of removing of the arrows is that we engage in life and you know, like that breakup that you had, boom, now you got an arrow. And now you're like engaging in your day-to-day life with this arrow like on your side, and you're like, oh, like it's hard as fuck to like operate, right? So I went into the men's weekend with the arrow of divorce, like on my side, like boom, I got served with divorce papers like 2 days ago, and here I am, like, you know, and so then it's like they create the space, and it's like, all right, you know, we're gonna remove the arrows, and the ones that can help you remove the arrows is your men. Your men are the ones that are gonna help you remove your arrows. So we created the space, and like men start grieving, but like, oh my God, like guttural, like just like connected to like this energy that is just I can't even describe it, but it feels like primordial almost, like the energy that's there, like from when men grieve. And so the takeaway from that exercise was that you know, when we grieve, we gotta do that with our men. If we were to go take that and like say like, oh, I got all these homegirls, I'm gonna go do that with my homegirls. Like, they're gonna baby you. They're not. So the way that it was put, like it was like, if you have a woman do that job for you, that's a man's job. Pulling of the arrows is a man's job. If you have a woman do that job. Just
gonna go deeper.
You're gonna pay too much, and the job is not gonna be done right. That's the way it was put. So I was like, all right, whatever. Let's see what happens next.
Had that issue, you know, like in front of y'all, you know what I mean? And barely now am I starting to like open up to my brothers and like allow myself to be a little bit vulnerable with folks that I'm talking to and like actually like share some of my life with. Prior to that, I would share it with like females who were friends with me, and then we'd end up having sex, and that put me in like this whole fucking like fucked up situation. Like women are saying, oh, you know, you're giving me your emotional baggage, and they thought that that meant it was like a relationship, and it, you know, and it wasn't a relationship. But it's like, well, why would you say these things? Like, well, I thought we were friends, you know what I mean? Like, but it's a man's job. Had I been doing that with my friends, with the men I surround myself with, instead of like the women, you know what I mean, or like putting myself in those situations, I'd be, you know, jeez.
You would have made some better choices.
Way better choices.
But that's okay. Like you didn't know, right? You didn't know. But now, but you know, but now you do, and like it's a matter of experiencing what that space is like, right? And being able to open up in that space, in that environment. So what happens is that the men like really connect to something that like this energy, and like the men start grieving, and the reason why it needs to be done with our men is because when a man is going through that, when a man is like screaming, like wanting to break down walls, you know, wanting to smash everything in his way, it scares women. Imagine your daughter seeing that. Imagine your mom seeing that. And it's like, oh my God, like where did Mijo get all this energy from? Like he scares me. I think he's gonna kill me. But when you're with men, it's like I'm gonna hold your arm, you hold his arm, and like you're gonna hold his legs, and he's gonna like freaking compress as much as he could and scream it all out, and we're gonna, at the end, we're all tired, like, oh, but like.
Sounds like some aggression.
But like that arrow's been removed.
Yeah.
And you're no longer with that arrow, because all that energy that you had to let out was because of that divorce.
Yeah. So I remember going something kind of similar, but very different from all that. So I went through a separation, super hard, you know, right? Like threw me into the depths of like my depression and family breaking apart and all that, right? And then maybe shortly after the separation, it was kind of like, just me and my kids, you know, and like, well, if I just have my kids, then we're good, you know, and I'll make it through this. And then my son moves like halfway across the United States. Yeah, it was like his mother had some things that she needed to take care of in another state, and they ended up moving. And I just felt like, already felt shattered, and then it just fucking in the grinder. And I remember, all of this is really like even like sharing this has only been shared like in very like confidential kind of stuff. But I'm trying to be more open with like being vulnerable, So drop him off. Now he's about to take his flight, and I'm on the freeway, and I remember just fucking screaming as loud as I was, just holding onto the steering wheel and yelling as loud as I can, And I remember saying, like talking to the creator, like, yo, how could you have done this to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been so faithful. How could you have done this? I felt so betrayed. I remember saying, like, manifest yourself into something physical and I'll fucking destroy you. Like that's how I felt in that sense. And that moment was like, I will fucking destroy you. So when you're saying like, yeah, you just feel like you can fucking break down wall or like I just I 100% understand that. Like that's that primal.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
like that fire that's just deep down in your stomach, and when it comes out, like, very intense. It's a very intense.
Very intense, yeah. And so it's like, imagine like a room full of like,
oh my god,
jeez.
I don't want to be nowhere near that.
No, but you see, but the thing is that it's like, all right. All you start feeling it, and it's like, yeah, it's your turn. All right, man, come on, we're gonna help this man out, and you're gonna go through that, and we're gonna be here for you.
Well, I think if I had that kind of support, from a group of people in that time, to like support me in that way, man, I think a lot of things my choices would have been a lot different.
But was it that you didn't have the support, or was it that you weren't letting yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely like I don't think we had that realization of like some of these tools. A lot of the people who I was around definitely supported me. Definitely felt for like what I was going through at the time. I don't think they necessarily had the tools to kind of like, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And there was like only up until recently have I become comfortable with the idea of like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to like, like I went through incarceration as a young kid, and like, like a lot of my life has been like a very intense, like I have to be strong all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if I can't allow myself to have any weakness, because if I have a weakness, if I allow that weakness, then people can go to prison. You know what I mean? People can lose their life.
Yeah.
So I gotta be on point all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? And up until recently, as my life like drastically changed, and the circumstances and things that have come up have forced me to be like, hey, you know what? Like maybe I could let a little bit of that shit go. Maybe I could just like open up a little bit. Like it's okay to hurt. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to like be wherever I'm at, or have experienced whatever I experience. I don't have to like put on such a hard exterior all the time and pretend like nothing phases me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what you're talking about now is code, the code of honor. What is your code of honor? And it sounds to me like what you were saying, like your code of honor came from the streets. So it's like the code of the streets. But we could adapt a code that is even greater than like what the streets have to offer, right? And it's very simple. Like
I think we have that too.
Yeah. So you never rat out your homies, right? Like you're gonna before the homies get ratted out, like you're gonna fall for them. Like that's one of the code. That's like probably like the deepest one.
Right.
Most notable.
Most notable one, yeah. And there's other codes to like the street that come from the street, but in wanting to become better fathers, better husbands. There's a new code that we could adapt, right? We could be an example to children. So how does that goes against the street code, right? So like if you're going to be an example to children, maybe not ratting people out, but being able to make a conscious choice of when to choose violence, right? Are you protecting life, or are you choosing violence just to prove a point? Right. So like that's
Because somebody stepped on your shoe.
Yeah, exactly. Or are you protecting your children?
Yeah.
Right. So be an example to children. Defend humanity. That's another example. Like embrace all men. Commitment before ego. What is your commitment? What are you committed to? You're committed to your family. You're committed to whatever your terms are. Like that kind of defines the commitments that you're going to take on, and whatever purpose you're living for, whatever your higher purpose is in life, that's also going to determine the commitments that you take on. So then, when you're living, when you gotta complete those commitments, the ego is always going to step in and be like, no, you can do it later. No, just don't worry about it. We could, it's too cold to go outside right now. Just, and it's easy to believe our own BS, right? So then that's another example, like commitment before. Hey, I got this commitment, man. I don't care if it's rain or shine out there. Like we're gonna do it. So that's an example of commitment before ego, and so the point that I'm making is that we can adopt a code that we live by that is greater than like what the streets have to offer.
Yeah, I think that adoption of a code, is what like kept my sanity. Like we were doing a community jiu-jitsu program, and a lot of indigenous values of warriorhood were a part of it, and that's kind of where like, well, my life is falling apart, but I'm here at Corazon. You know what I'm saying? Every Tuesday, Tuesday and Thursday, cool spot, man. I'm there teaching jiu-jitsu classes, and like I'm not going to waver in my commitment to my community. That I'm going to do this in spite of whatever I'm going through. And it was just like that is what kept me like sane. That is what kept me like looking forward to something next week, and just like instead of withering up into a little ball and die. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was very much like like that code, and having something to strive for is what really
having purpose.
Purpose is what really kept me sane through that process.
We gotta have purpose, man. We gotta have purpose. Even if our purpose at this moment is just to put on this podcast, like we're here for a purpose. And if your purpose for this year is to, I don't know, buy a house, then you have a purpose. Like you walk out of here tonight and you're gonna get online and you're gonna start whatever. You're gonna do your work to buy a house. If your life purpose is to, whatever your life purpose is, like you're gonna continue to live that purpose. And that's what that was. Like you having Corazon del Pueblo and the jiu-jitsu class was giving you a purpose at that time in your life. And it's okay, we're gonna go through phases in life where our purpose is going to change. But when we're mindful of what our purpose is, like we're mindful of that purpose. Right now, for me, it's like it's raising my children, and it's being able to leave behind for them like things that they're going to be able to remember me by, and then my grandchildren will be able to remember me by. And that's my purpose. So the way that I say it is I say I'm building my kingdom, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm like buying like land that I could hand off to my kids. And being able to put like a garden, being able to grow corn and beans, and that's kind of like me and my wife we're working on that right now. We're like,
you can't say that because these guys will make fun of you if you water corn.
If we water corn?
No, they'll make fun of you.
The joke to him is just like, go water the corn. This is mid-circle, right? Go water the corn.
Well, but you see, but we have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so if his purpose is to
water the corn,
this man is living purpose. But yeah. So those are things that I'm creating in my life right now as part of my purpose at this moment in my life, and also like the men's work that I've been doing now for some time. it's really needed in the community. So I'm thankful that I'm here tonight and be able to share with you, man. You know, what I've learned, and that also gives me purpose, because you know, I've been going to the men's circle, the same men's circle, like the same. You know, granted, like men have come and gone, but I'm still part of that same circle for the past 10 years, and I love when men come on and they start learning about what we do, and like men have breakthroughs in their life, because then that helps them grow. Like that gives me purpose as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very masculine, is having purpose.
Just wanted to say something. I know you were talking about the weekend, and there's a lot of, you know, white people, white men specifically, and it could be, you know, like you said, white fatigue could be draining. I think I'm not, like, obviously each man here is probably, if we want to do it, we're gonna have to figure it out. Maybe ask you more questions off this camera,
Right.
you know, to figure out if maybe that's something we all want to do.
Right.
One thing that I have noticed is that when us men, when it comes to warriorhood, a lot of us, not necessarily everybody here, but outside of here, there's been men who participated in joining the military forces that we would consider the enemy, or enemy forces, or things like that. Yeah, my father's one of them. My father's also a veteran. Obviously, Saga Age, and there's people like that who participated in those things. So my parallel to that was like, well, maybe this is the step that us men have to take, and, you know, sacrifice dealing with the, you know, that little bit of indoctrination, if you will, or just exposing yourself to that fatigue for the benefit and for the benefit of our people, and maybe we'll all have those tools to continue to do the growth that we're all trying to do. I mean, because that's ultimately the birth of this podcast, was to create some kind of, you know, outlet for brown men, you know, and maybe that's what we're gonna have to sacrifice to have those tools to do those things. Because it's kind of funny that you guys mentioned being vulnerable and not being able to talk about it. I mean, I've known this brother since 6th grade, and emotionally we've never really, there's been a few moments where things were really heavy where we were able to, but aside from those things, like it's always been this kind of like barricade of not to show each other emotion. And it's kind of funny, because you would think somebody, you know, I've known him for so long, even these brothers, I mean, I've known him for a few years now, like that's just not on the table really. And it's just it's just that inside wire, however you were raised, kind of barricade. You know?
So I could share with you like where that comes from. You know, in the world and culture of men, I don't know what else to call it, right? So I just call it world culture or whatever. It's that we are the ones that have to go hunt. When the war breaks out, we're the ones that have to go kill. Right? We're the ones that have to go kill. That's part of our job, right? And
Purpose.
Yeah. And so because of that, we have to keep. We're wired to have to suppress our emotions. And we're wired like imagine like bullets are flying overhead, and you're like, and brother's telling me about some like shit he has with his dad right now. Daddy issue at the moment. We're like, bro,
It's not the time, man.
People watch my 6. How many were?
I can't watch your 6 because my dad.
So that's the hard part,
right.
And so but I think traditionally we, you know, as men, we have had circles to take care of this. We've lost it though. We've lost it. And so because we are the ones that have to kill with our bare hands if it comes to it, you know, that's the reason why we're not just going to open up and be like, you know what, man? That's exactly why. But when we come to these circles and we hold the space and we're very intentional about it, this is the place where we can do it. Like, this is the place where you're going to learn about, you know, the issues that I have around my father, where I feel my father failed me, where I feel that I failed my father, and like maybe even cry about that. Like that's the time and the space to do it.
Yeah, that's a lot of how I see this this podcast. You know, we use the men's circle, right? And contemporarily, it holds like another kind of, you know, in the colonial society, another kind of theme, right? It's like it's not necessarily traditionally what, at least I think of when I think of the men's circle, is like traditionally, you know, we would pack the pipe and all the men would assemble at my teepee and we're gonna light the fire and we're gonna discuss, you know, things that are relevant to men in the tribe.
Right.
And the younger ones are gonna get all of these stories and these examples and whatever comes up, you know, about what our expectation
Hold
is.
each other accountable.
All of that, you
Yeah.
know, all of that too, you know. So that's what I think of a lot of, like, that's why I word it like, yeah, this is the kind of circle your grandfather was in. You know what I mean?
sure,
Like,
yeah. No,
like
I get it.
it's not the crying circle, you know what I mean? Or it's not,
Or it's not
it could
the
be
boys
that.
club.
It could be that. Yeah,
not
you know,
the-
so it's not like, and that may be like, some people may think that's what they're tuning in to get, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that kind of a circle where, and then they see us sitting here laughing and having fun, and making light of things, and touching on some real subjects.
Yeah.
But it's not that, so they're like, oh, this isn't, that's not a man, sir, you know what I mean? But it is, you
Yeah.
know, but it is. It's not the one you think of, you know, this is very much something like that.
Right.
What
It
about-
is, and it's ours. You know, like,
What about like things like ceremonies like Sundance and Hamlecha and like, you know, things that like because personally, like I feel like one thing that really helped me was Hamlecha, you know,
Yeah.
like being up there by myself and having to ponder all these things that are going on in my life and like
With the snake visiting you?
yeah, twice, you know, like so, you know, like you know those like
Serpent.
you know, like putting yourself in a tough position and still having that, or I have all these issues mentally, emotionally, but now I'm putting myself in there physically as well, where I'm voluntarily putting myself in the like at the mercy of the elements, you know, and,
Yeah.
and things like that. You know?
Right. Yeah, that you know, and it's, you know, because we're part of that same Dioshpa, you and I. So I know exactly like the day, the time, all of that, the details. So I'm gonna honor confidentiality, but I'll tell you this. You know, think about who puts us up there, and had it been anybody else, would we have taken the lessons that we came back with? You know, because the man that puts us up there, like that's really his vision for. That's his purpose.
Yeah.
His purpose is to be able to pass on these teachings to the next generation.
Yeah.
He wants the next set of uncles to come up and pour water and to put men up on the hill, to continue putting men up on the hill, because we need that.
And it's funny that you say that because like I've been to other ceremonies that other people run, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this, you know. And like, no matter like where else I go, it's like even now, you know, like I yearn, like I feel like right now I would be the time that I would want to be there with Uncle Tony, you know. But like I know because of COVID and stuff like that, like we can't really like I haven't got my shots, you know. So like I can't really be around them because you know.
I identify as a vaccinated person.
You gotta go to MacArthur Park and get your card.
Oh,
Damn.
we have to beat that one out.
Hey,
huh?
is that one stamped by him or what?
Oh man.
Nah, but yeah, man.
So my question was
Mic check.
to Jorge was: is there an exercise that we can do right now that won't break the confidentiality agreement?
Yeah.
But that we can do here as men for the show, so viewers can see us like actually do one of the exercises amongst ourselves.
Yeah. So there's nothing that's really coming to my mind like right now. Like here's what. Usually, what we do in a men's circle is that we'll prepare, and so if like this week, you know, the man. So as a matter of fact, let me take a little step back here, a bit of a step back. The men's circle, the way that we structure it is that there's a man that leads it. So we call him the team leader, and we call it a team actually. I've also heard of team captain. So we either call him the captain or the team leader. And a man will do it for 6 months. And it really gives a man an opportunity to learn about leadership skills that can be used in business, can be used in your life, and it's like a mentor. The team leader works with a mentor, and the team leader has a vision of what he wants to do for the next 6 months, and it instills also purposefulness, and he puts together a team of the man that's going to be sending out the constant communications, the man that finds us a location that we're going to circle up at, so it's very organized and very organized, regimented, and disciplined. That's one of the things that we do have in the men's circle. So usually when the team leader asks for an exercise, the team leader will say, all right, this week, and it's not called the theme, but it's kind of like a theme. The theme will be, fathering. And I need you to lead an exercise on terms. So it's like, all right, so how do I? Then I have to take that back, and it puts me in a place where I have to think about it. I have to reflect on it. I start digging in from my life experiences and how terms and fathering come together. And And so then I'll draw from those experiences, and maybe I might call another man on the team or two other men. And this is and then I'm revealing stuff that is deep and personal. And the man might say, yeah, you know what? I've also had this experience. And what do you think of this? And we'll bounce ideas. And then I'll prepare it, and I'll give a little document, just something really quick that says, here's what we're gonna do. It covers a list of results, what results we want to create. Put a statement for the purpose. The purpose is to lead the men in an exercise where we talk about fathering and purpose. So that why the so that is why, so that the men can get connected to having better relationships with their children, or better relationships with their fathers, whatever. And so So then I would put that together, and then when it comes time, the team leader will say, hey, all right, you're gonna get 45 minutes. All right, 45 minutes. And then I just take the men through that whole exercise. Okay. And sometimes it could be something as simple as a meditation. Sometimes those exercises bring out things that are where a man might need to grieve. So it becomes that kind of space. Mm-hmm. And we think ahead, yeah, you know what, this right here could bring up some real traumas. Some traumas. And so we prepare for that. Okay. And we're ready to, we tell the team leader, hey, you know what, this exercise right here could bring up some trauma, so be ready to throw your agenda out the window. All right, cool. Okay. If that's where it goes, we'll give the whole 3 hours of the team meeting just to take care of that. Mm-hmm. And then so then we deliver that exercise, and then that'll be it. So sometimes the exercises could be meditations, sometimes they could be physical things that we do to get connected to our bodies. Sometimes they're conversations. So what we're doing right now in this conversation is an example of that kind of exercise. The only thing is that this is more organic. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of letting it flow, and I'm sharing with you. But I didn't put together a document that says here's what we're going to talk about with the purpose. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of feeling this purpose out on the fly and just allowing it to be. Mm-hmm. And when I come here and I share what I share, I'm just sharing what's in my heart. I shared about the divorce that I experienced and what that was like for me, and that depression that I felt, and then coming back together with my wife, and where we're at today as a husband and wife, and as a family. And that's what's in my heart. Mm-hmm. And so I allow for that to guide me. I was having a conversation with another one of the men on the team a little while ago, actually, before coming here. And he was telling me about one of his struggles is an addiction. Right, so he struggles with this addiction. He'll turn to it because it allows him to not feel. Right, and he turns to that whenever he is triggered by the trauma that he has from when he was a boy. So there's this little boy inside of him that's still hurt, that hasn't been taken care of. And when we allow ourselves to take care of that little boy, when we acknowledge that little boy, right? Because think about it. When we were kids, and if we weren't acknowledged, what would we do? we'd behave bad, we'll do something to get us in trouble, and then now we're getting acknowledged.
Mhm.
But we're getting acknowledged because we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? But like we didn't, especially like in our culture, it's not very common that we get, hey, you did great. You're awesome.
Right.
You're an awesome little boy. Like we didn't really receive that.
That nurturing.
That acknowledgement, the acknowledgement. So we have to go back and we have to acknowledge that little boy inside of ourselves and tell that little, and that's hard, man. Like that was like when I went up on the hill for the first time, I had to go back and talk to the little boy. Man, this is a hard one. I had to go talk to the little boy that was 10 years old, that was sleeping next to the window, waiting for his dad to come home. That's the little boy that I had to go back to and talk to. And talk to that little boy. I had to talk to that little boy and tell him, hey, you know what? Georgie, it's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right. And it was me today, like acknowledging that little boy, and coming to that point was very healing for me. So I had an opportunity to acknowledge that little boy that had been lashing out at me as a grown man. So it's the little boy showing up in the grown man, and we see that all the time. You see a lot of man children out in the world, you know, like with their, you know, whatever, they do all kinds of dumb shit. I feel like, right? Because there's this little boy that hasn't been acknowledged. And so when we allow ourselves to acknowledge that little boy inside of us, it allows us to be more sensitive as men, and that's something that our families need. Our families need for us to be able to be sensitive. When our daughters, you know, true experience, like my daughter just had a recent breakup with her you know, date or whatever it was. Like, you know, she was getting feelings for this young man, and she had to end it because it just wasn't working out. And yeah, you know, I joke around a lot. I joke around with my kids all the time. I give them a hard time, but I also had to like tap into that sensitive part of me to be able to hold her and just let her know, hey, you know what?
It's okay.
It's okay.
Oh man, I can't. I don't want to. Oh god, that's gonna tear me up. To see her cry over like
Over a boy.
Oh.
Yeah. And I had to allow myself to feel that as well as a father.
Wow.
Like watching my daughter go through heartbreak.
Much braver than I am.
Because of a boy. Like I've been the man that's been in her life since she was born. And now I'm watching her like kind of replace me in a sense. Not really, because she hasn't, you know, nobody's put a ring on her finger yet.
Right.
But when that day comes, that's like, it's, you know, and it's symbolic. Whether it's like a ring on the finger and it's like the traditional colonizer way, or if it's not, you know, like we go down to the tree and like they put a blanket around them. Like, she is my baby girl, and I'm gonna have to give her away one day. Because in her life, she's only gonna have space for one man in her life, right? Remember, we're talking about the monogamous relationship. So I have to allow that space to be there, so that she could love her man once I step out of the way. And if I'm a bad father and I create all these daddy issues for her, she will never have that space because she won't have peace with me to really have a good relationship with her man. So all the things that all the trust issues that as a father to our daughters that we pass on to them, our daughters could then take that and project those insecurities with their daddy issues to the man that they choose to create a family with, right? So
do men project those issues too with their
yeah, we project those issues too. Yeah, so it's the little boy. It's the little boy that's not acknowledged, and we project those as like, you know, toxic masculinity. And you know, so that's why going back and acknowledging that little boy inside of us is critical to allowing for ourselves to be able to feel. Because when we can feel, right, so that moment like, oh baby, I'm so sorry that this man like you know, broke your heart. And like inside I'm crying, but I don't show that to her, and I just hold her. But like I allow myself to feel that. Like, oh, all right, I'm feeling that. How does it feel? I feel sad. I feel sad for my daughter that, you know, she's going through this. Like really articulate what that feeling is. And that in turn helps us to be sensitive. That in turn helps us to be sensitive with our sons. Because you know, like, it's funny, but like I give my sons a hard time all the time. Just to give them a hard time.
Yeah, I do too.
Like, hey, what are you? Hey, come on, get up. Let's go. You can do it faster. You can do it better. You know, because the relationship between a father and a son is always like an athlete and coach. So we want to have our athletes perform like they're gonna getting ready for the Olympics, right? And that's the coach. That's the coach that we want to be for our sons.
I'm literally my son's coach.
and that's good. That's good. But I also want to let you know that dynamic is the dynamic that creates a lot of father-son issues later on. But that's natural. That's normal, and just be ready for it when it comes. All right.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I can attest to that one too. But yeah, man. So you know, going back to that little boy is being able to have that sensitivity. That's what our communities need. That's what our families need. That's what our children need. Our children need a man who is sensitive, a man who can really connect to his feelings, not emotional. Emotional is a man that's gonna tear stuff up or start bawling over like some bullshit. Like that's not the way to do it. Like we got to be sensitive. You know, it's okay to cry at a funeral. It's okay to cry when a baby is born, like your child is born, like, oh, you cry. But like other than that, like when else do we cry? Like if we're crying for other reasons other than that, like maybe we're being a little too emotional. You know, I'm just using that as a gauge. Like, you know, I'm not saying that it's wrong or right, but like that would be a gauge. Like death and birth, like those are like two extremes. Yeah, that we could say, okay, like at this point. Sometimes a movie, like I'll watch a movie and like my wife will look at me, she'll be like, are you crying? I'll be like, no, I'm not. You know?
Just a glare, man.
Yeah, or even, you know, like we had a moment with one of our children and she's like, are you, you know, my eyes are like ready to ball up, but it's like, you know, but like I do my best to not be emotional, but like sensitive, like, yeah, you know, that was beautiful what just happened. Like that is what I want for you kids to be able to experience those things, and like, you know, because I'm able to connect to my feelings at that moment, and I can express it. And sometimes, you know, like one of the feelings, emotions that we're really connected to as men, like is anger. Like we know how to express anger like easily, right? Like I don't. You don't? No. Okay. Well.
I do.
Yeah. I think a lot of men can really connect to that, and I could too. And you know, it's very powerful to be able to tell your relatives that live in your house with you, hey, you know what? I'm really angry and upset right now, and I just need a little bit of space. Or, hey, what you did? You said you were gonna have this ready. Hey, I told you to go take a shower. And I'm very upset with you right now because you ain't taking a shower. Like, what am I gonna have to do? Am I gonna have to take away your toys for the next 2 weeks? No. All right then. I don't want to feel upset, but I'm feeling upset because of what you're doing. It's not because of you, but here's what happened that made me feel upset. Right. So when we're able to articulate those feelings, upset, anger, happiness, joy, whatever it is, like it allows us to be sensitive. That's a good way of being.
I've noticed how well, at least within my dad, there was no explanation to like things like that, you know. Oh, it's because you did this, you know. It was just straight ass whooping, you know. And that's one thing like that I noticed, you know. And early on, like I noticed, like I don't want to be with that. If I ever have kids, I don't want to be like that, you know.
Yeah.
So like now with like my nephews. My sister has 2 kids now, and like earlier there was a situation where like, you know, they're kids, you know, so they fight over toys, and you know it gets a little serious, and my sister's on her phone, and it's like she's not paying attention to what's going on. She's on her phone, you know, and then like something happens, she gets up and spanks like one of them, you know. And like I look at her and I'm like, dude, like you're not even paying attention to them, you know. Had you been paying attention, like you're hearing them argue over this toy, you know, like because, you know, you're not deaf obviously, but she's so caught up in her phone that like, you know, so now that led to her spanking her kids, whereas
she
like
just put her phone down.
And be like, hey, like that's not okay, you guys are supposed to share, you know. Like, and that's one thing that like me and my little sister, even my little sister's better at that now, but maybe because like they're not our kids, you know, like
it's easier to
it's easier to do it. But like that's one thing that we try to do with them is like when they do something, it's like we try to explain to them like why it's not okay, and you know, and like other things, you know, like talk to them.
Try explaining to them how what they did made you feel.
Oh.
Try that. Like take that as a conscious exercise next time you engage with kids, with the children in your household when they're effing up. You know, like what did you do? How did it make me feel? And then let them know like how that made you feel.
You know, I'm good. I'm good with that with like my partner. Not so much my kids. You know, like I don't know. I've never had to like explain to them like that.
I feel like they're not entitled to your feelings.
No.
Maybe because you don't want to see them like show them that like you want to be the stern one, like, you know, like maybe that's why.
I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe like they're not bad kids, you know. Most of the time, like they're really well behaved a lot of the time. So there isn't that many like. No, you know what I mean? Or like, I thought I told you. You know, it's usually like clean your room, you know, and then like might have to come back. Not that clean your room. Get this room clean, and then you know they get to it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing like, hey, throw out the trash, you know, and all right, let me just finish this round of whatever, Call of Duty or whatever, and then I'll get the trash out. You know, so they're really good kids at the end of the day. So like I maybe I missed that, like, you know, when they were a little younger and were a little more mischievous, but even then they were never really bad kids.
It's never too late though, and it doesn't have to be only when you're not feeling good. You could also do it when you're feeling good. Like, and I struggle with this. Like honestly, I really struggle with this. Like acknowledging my oldest son. Like he needs more acknowledgement from me, and I recognize it. And I struggle with it sometimes to be able to. I do. It looks different for the way that I acknowledge him than the way that I acknowledge my little ones. Like my little ones, I'll be like, "Good job, kids! You did great." But with my oldest one, it looks different.
It's more of like an expectation.
No. So the way that I acknowledge him is that like I'll actually like. Go spend one-on-one time with him, and I'll be like, "Hey, come on, we're gonna go." Like the last time that I did that was I took him to the shooting range. It's like, "Come on, we're gonna go break in this new rifle." He's like, "All right." Took him to go break in the new rifle. Took him to go eat and just have like conversations with him because he's already a young man. He's already 20. Yeah, he's 20, and so I had conversations with him, like, you know, the kinds of conversations that I had, like men's circle conversations, and. But it doesn't. It's not as direct. Like me taking that time to take him and teach him like about those things is an indirect acknowledgement versus like, hey, I'm proud of you, son. Like, man, you're kicking ass. You're firing on all cylinders. And I could do more of that, and I should do more of that. And I'll make a commitment to do more of that. And I'm making that commitment right now. And. Yeah, man, and that's also what, you know, like it's not wrong or right that you don't acknowledge to your children like how you're feeling often, but now is an opportunity. You can do that now. You can go back and you can acknowledge them for their accomplishments. You could acknowledge them for just who they are and what you're proud about them. And when you're not happy about what they're doing, you could also acknowledge that as well. Like it's just constant acknowledgement to them.
I think they've gotten a lot of the. You're doing good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From me, you know, not so much of the, like, I'm upset.
Yeah.
You know, or like, this is why you're letting me down, or
right.
You know, there's not much of that going on. So there's a lot of like positive, like, like, hey, you know, your techniques is getting good. You know that. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. When you are upset. And you're upset with like one of your kids, how do they know? Do you talk less to them?
They probably like demeanor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Like, so that's how you communicate.
Like yeah, you would know like when you would know when I'm not okay.
Yeah.
You know, when like dad is feeling upset, there's just something about me that's like.
So I'm gonna put myself in your kid's shoes, and I'm gonna say. Why is Dad upset? What are your kids' names?
Yao
and
Nawak.
Anáhuac?
Yeah.
Hey, Anáhuac, did you notice that Dad's like upset?
Seems angry.
Yeah, what did we do? Right? So
That was pretty good.
so instead of keeping them guessing, it's better to be able to communicate, even if it's something as small.
Well,
like,
yeah. Well, I guess maybe because maybe up until recently, like my son is 16, so I feel a little bit more comfortable with like sharing a little bit more of like, hey, this is the real world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe because the things that were upsetting to me a few years ago were more of like adult kind of things.
Had nothing to do with that.
Has nothing to do, and I didn't want to put that on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, you know, I guess more recently, like starting a business and like getting, you know, financial things in order, and it's kind of real stressful sometimes, and like, you know, crunching things.
So it's
trying
okay.
to make
It's
things
like,
happen.
hey guys, I'm really stressed out right now because it has nothing to do with you, but I'm feeling really stressed out right now. So don't mind me if I'm a little bit of an asshole today. It's just, you know, I'm just feeling stressed.
Or maybe seem like distant, like you're not engaging with them, like if they're talking to you and you're on in your head. You know?
That much more of is what I've been experiencing a little bit more, especially since like sometimes I don't have enough downtime to like figure things out, and what little time I do have, you know, I gotta like
Do a podcast.
focus. I gotta like narrow, you know, I gotta like narrow in on like, hey, there's some issues that I have to resolve in order to like get to the next level, and like, you know, problem solve this. And this is gonna be it. So most of my time goes into any free time, you know, kind of goes into that, and you know, when I can, hey, let's go to the beach. Let's go do this. Hey, put your gloves on. We're gonna go to the park and, you know, hit some mitts or whatever, you know, and spend that time with them. But more lately, a lot of my time has been going into like focusing on business kind of thing, and yeah, there is a lot more of like, oh, Dad looks like, you know, he's in the zone about what I'm gonna just go ahead and sneak around him real quick, make myself a sandwich, and go to my room, you know, kind of thing. So
and you know, it doesn't apply just to our children. Like, being able to articulate what we feel.
That's the problem that I have.
We got to do that with everybody.
I don't do it with anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows how I'm feeling.
Nope.
Like 99% of the time.
Well, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling interested right now.
All right.
I'm interested in this conversation. You know what I mean? But like anger, like I'm incredibly patient. I can wait for grass to grow. You know, so like if something is making me angry, like I can be totally chill and like straight faced through the most intense anger.
So is that a mask, or is that patience?
Maybe it's a mask. Maybe I'm using patience as a mask, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
If I knew, I'd tell you though.
Right.
But you know, I experience something and I'll go to my room. I'll be quiet. I won't articulate how I'm feeling, especially if I am angry. You know, it's easy for me to be angry about like if I'm driving, I can like, oh, this guy's a mental. You know what I mean? There's a yield sign. Like I can let it out like that, like little pressure releases.
Yeah.
When I'm driving to somebody I don't even know. But when it comes to like conflict with like people in my circles, I'm just like now down for any type of conflict with people in my circles. I don't want to have like, I can wait for a time where tempers aren't going to fly and we can maybe have a conversation about it, but then it's like, well, that time just never comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like something that was bothering me a year ago. I've just been waiting for the time to come where we can like talk about it, and then it just doesn't come. You know, and then,
But because you're waiting for them to come to you to talk about
I
it,
don't
or
know,
you don't want to reach out?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I'm just for the situation to manifest. You know what I mean? But I'm never taking like.
You got to create that.
the initiative.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't do it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to create that.
And maybe I'm just afraid of like the
Conflict?
altercation.
Yeah, no, and you know what, like.
That's the little old man here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, but you know, the thing is like we can't just go outside and like just do that with anybody. Like we could do that in a men's circle with your men, right? Because for example, we're gonna put on a podcast, or we're gonna put on a meeting, and we're gonna put an agenda together. You know, we have a purpose. Hey, oh man, I need you to take care of this. Time comes, it's like, hey, is it ready? Oh no, man. Or maybe you just ghosted me, but then you show up the day of. It's like, motherfucker ghosted me, and like had made a commitment, didn't keep it, and now he ghosted me. So when as soon as we get there, I'm gonna be like, yo, man, you need to step into the circle with me. And I'm gonna step into the circle with you, and I'm gonna look you in the eyes, and I'm gonna say, hey, what happened? And it's very straightforward. We call it clearing the list. This is another tool. Clearing the list. What happened? How it made you feel? And what do you need moving forward? And so to be like, yo, man, you committed that you were gonna help me with this, and you didn't. And how it made me feel? It really made me feel let down, man. I really feel let down by you. What I need moving forward is for you to keep your word. And then you're gonna take that in. But again, when it comes to clearing a list, the list clearing is not about you. It's about me and what I'm feeling. And I just need to let. And so as you, the man that's receiving the list, you just got to be able to let it slide. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm the one that's hanging on to that. I'm the one that's like feeling that resentment. And so when I clear that list with you, I'm gonna bury it because we got work to do. Because we got a community to take care of. Right. And if I hang on to that, and I'm like, hey, homie, yeah, this is how you make me feel, and I hang on to it, I'm not going to be able to open up my heart when we circle up. Okay. We're not going to be able to do that work that needs to be done.
Can I ask you about how you're telling me how you're feeling? How much of how you're feeling is my responsibility when you're telling me those things?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No, doesn't matter. You just got to hold the space for the man. For the man to be able to bury that, because it's the man that feels hurt or crossed or whatever that needs to put that away.
Right. Can I say
It's their
something on that?
responsibility to get it through, deal with it, and move on.
And move on.
I want to say something on that because like I was having this conversation with a friend a few days back about something like that, right? Because we were talking about accountability and like this issue of like, oh, so and so made this person feel this way, right? And I said like well, like we're not responsible for other people's feelings. And they told me the same thing, like it doesn't matter, because when you say that, they told me this, like when you say that, it's kind of like you're downplaying their feelings, and even though like yeah, people are in control of their own feelings and shit like that, but still like your truth is not their truth. They have their truth,
Correct.
So like what they feel could be legitimate to them, even though it's not legitimate to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So like that kind of like, I was like, oh shit, like I didn't think about it like that, like.
So it allows that person to be able to bury that. And then like for me, I've been on the receiving end too. Like I've had men pull me into the circle and be like, hey, Rosado. And I'll be like, fuck, yeah, you know what? I really fucked that one up. And then it'll be like, then there's an opportunity for us to be able to get back in honor. And that's another tool that we use in the men's circle, is getting back in honor. And it's like, all right, who's out of honor? I'm out of honor. Next, we go around the circle. I'm out of honor. I'm out of honor. All right, so we got 3 men out of honor. Rosado, what you do? I was supposed to call so and so, and I didn't. All right, then they go on to the next man. What did you do? I was supposed to, do this, and I didn't. And what did you do? I effed this up. And so then depending on how severe we're out of honor, like if a man shows up and says, yeah, I beat up my wife. So we're gonna have to like, it's not as like straightforward as, although that's never happened. I'm just using a very extreme example. We're not gonna have them do push-ups, but usually it's like, all right, you didn't call a man back, all right? Give me 25 push-ups. Right. And so doing the push-ups allows us to get connected to our body. That allows us to be able to do something physical to cleanse ourselves of that bad feeling, because we're capable of so much
being
more.
held accountable.
Yeah, it's being held accountable, exactly. It's being held accountable. So we do our push-ups and it's like, all right, cool. All right, who's back? You feel back in honor? Yeah, man, I feel better now. Yeah, thank you. So that's what you do if you're the one that like just like, and you acknowledge that you effed up.
Right. So if I'm the one that fucks up, do I have to go to the person that I did wrong to, or does the person that felt wrong have to come to me and be like, yo, you did this wrong, I feel this way?
Yeah, so then it would be at the time where we're getting back in honor, right? Because so what happens is that at the very beginning when we circle up, we gotta make the space, like we gotta make it sacred. We gotta get everybody like on the same page. Everybody's gotta be like in a good space. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we get back in honor. and we clear lists. Because if we move into the work that we do, feeling out of honor, like man, I'm capable of so much more, and I didn't. You know, you allow yourself to slide or you sell yourself out, then you're not going to be functioning at 100%. And the same if like a man that's like, hey, it's time to clear a list, and it's like, oh man, I got a list, I got to clear it, but nah, I'm going to hang on to it because I'm not ready to clear it, or I'm scared. I've never done this before. It's foreign to me, and I don't know what to do. That is also gonna stop you from functioning at 100 when it comes time to doing the work. Because remember, when we get into that men's circle and we're doing work on the little boy that's been hurt. We're doing work on terms. We're doing work on how to become better fathers. Like that's heavy stuff. And so we need to let go of that stuff as soon as we walk into the circle, so that we can be fully present. And that's what the purpose of all that is to become fully present. Yeah.
And it's a trip because like the reason I asked that was because like I forgot where I saw this at, like in certain communities in Mexico, like back in the days, like if you wronged somebody, like if it wasn't like nothing major, if you wronged somebody and you wanted to make amends, or like you felt fucked up that you did them wrong or whatever, you would walk up to them, you would like apologize, whatever, and depending on the situation, they would eat a piece of dirt. But the purpose of that is like that you're walking up to them, the person that you felt you did wrong, rather than like the person that felt wrong coming up to you and telling you, hey, you did this, this, and this, Whereas like that's the majority of communities out there, like it's the person that felt wrong is coming in and, hey, you did this, like how can we?
Yeah, so it's an acknowledgement, and so that's where the getting back in honor it fits into our circle. Mm-hmm. So we say, all right, who's out of honor? What did you do? I did it. What did you do? All right, all you motherfuckers, grab a pinch of dirt and eat it.
Yeah.
All right, I ate the dirt. You feel back in honor now? You feel better? Yeah, I'm present. All right, cool. Let's keep going.
Nice. I think that's a good spot to conclude this episode. Like we have another episode to film, and there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. There's so much that I'm learning. So much that I wish I had 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
3 or 4 or 5 months ago.
I'd love to have you back to film another series of episodes,
Yeah, definitely.
But we are going to do one more with you for sure. And I'm really grateful for this whole conversation, and I can't wait to put into practice a lot of the things that I learned today too. I am feeling nervous about putting some of these into practice because I have to.
It's new.
Open and honest with a lot of my friends and my circles, and like I'm barely getting into that, like we live together, and 99% of the time, like he rarely knows like where I'm at or what I'm doing, and like any of those things. I don't talk to nobody about like what I'm doing or going or things like that, like even the people I live with, so that I am feeling a little bit nervous about like implementing some of these things, but I'm also feeling excited to like go through it and see like the results, those list of results that you're talking about.
Function at a better capacity.
Right. Facts, 100%. So I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to throw before we close it up.
Just a definite shout out to Tekolotl for inviting you and suggesting you to be his replacement. He's not here with us, and
permanent replacement.
But
Yeah, still.
But
It is official.
yeah. Okay, I don't sign off on that. Just sorry, Tekolotl. But just thank him for suggesting you, and honestly, none of us really knew what to expect.
I didn't either.
Yeah, we did have a good conversation over the phone prior, and I was expecting it to be a lot more serious and kind of almost dry. I was expecting that, and instead it was completely different.
She's real wet.
Hey, we had to take a piss on the 25th floor.
Yeah. So, but you know, it turned out to be fulfilling, I think, for every single one of us. And
I think we all learned something.
And I also would like to learn some of these things personally. I just even from my own issues with my own family. I grew up in a household of men, so it's just my two brothers and my dad. So, of course, yeah. And this guy, we had a few adopted other sons, but it's always been men in my house primarily. So just to hear this is just like, man, it's like I wish we all had that. And there was moments and times where we were emotionally able to show ourselves and do these things, but it was caused by some real serious and like crazy stuff. But as soon as that went over, it kind of went back to status quo. And just to hear like, wow, we might potentially be able to, you know, get together, do this on a regular basis, or even develop it at least amongst ourselves is awesome. And I would definitely love for you to come back and we continue having discussions, because I think it's very important. And I do think that everybody here and hopefully our viewers can get something from that. So
I would definitely love to like be able to link this circle with your circles outside of this, you know what I mean? Like figure out a relationship that we can do. Maybe have other folks in your circle can come and be on the podcast and share their stories and experiences, you know. I think that would be like a really fruitful relationship.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to Red Feather.
Shout out Red Feather.
Red Feather Productions. You know, our sponsor, Red Feather, provided us with this space, and we're really grateful for Red Feather and all that he has given us.
The word around the block is he was putting in work in Canada. On a bunch of churches.
Rest in peace to the churches.
To the churches. Red Feather burning on the churches.
You know, Red Feather out there putting in, doing the Lord's work.
Me meets Tlasokamati,
I want to thank George. I do ceremony with George, and it's always good to see you. You know, like when they told me like, oh, well, you know how's it gonna be? I was like, well, look at it this way: we do ceremony, and coming down from the hill, we're joking about like inappropriate things. You know, you know, so.
That's the classic one right there.
So you know, like, just thank you. I think we all learned something here today, and I think that some of the stuff that you talked about can be applied not just like in relationships, like intimate relationships with your partner, but like in community as well. You know, and I think that one's really important because that's one of the topics that we brought up. You know, it's like how do you form communities and stuff like that. And there's a lot of issues out there between people that, if they were to learn these things, because a lot of the issues is like ego stuff, you know, like simple stuff that like if you put your ego to the side and you come forward and you smash these whatever thing is going on with each other, then you can work at full capacity as a community. You know. So thank you.
I wanna acknowledge this brother right here too. And man, it's great seeing you here. And when I saw the podcast, I was like, hey, I know that guy. And Lucas, right? Because that's me. We're like, man, I wanna tell you that when you had your naming ceremony, and when the elder said, you know, if any man that's gonna stand behind this man, you know, to hold him accountable and to that he lives up to his name. I don't know if you remember, but I'm one of the men that stood behind you. And I stood behind you because that's how I know you. I know you from being up on the hill. I've seen you out there at the camp, like putting in work, you know, and that's what I'm always telling you, bro. Like, hey man, get in there, bro. Get in there. Man, get your stuff ready, bro. Get in there. And
well, Uncle Tony says you'll know when the tree calls you, you know, so I feel like the tree hasn't called you.
I'm speaking for the tree, bro.
Get your ass in there, bro.
But that's what I want to acknowledge, man, is that I've seen you on your journey, and I'm just acknowledging that I see you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. And so I stood behind you, and by standing behind you, I'm going to continue to also push you to strive for what you're capable of. And so when I tell you that, you know, I'd like to see you in there, man, I'm not telling you that just because I want to see you in there suffering. I'm telling you that because I know that you can handle it. And it's going to open up doors and give you gifts in your life for whatever it is that you're ready to move on to next.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be there just to see you suffer. But yeah, George, thank you for coming through, man. Like, this was a really fruitful conversation. Definitely looking forward to seeing what else comes out
What
of
else
this.
comes, yeah.
This was, thank you for taking some time out of your day. Thank you to your wife and kids for allowing you to come out here and be a part of this. And,
Yeah, thank you.
You gotta honor
really
her with a
appreciate it.
gift basket.
All right,
So that's it.
to close it out.
Yeah. No,
So-
do the home.
That's on you.
I wasn't closing you.
Just do it.
What is it? Last
All right,
I love
one
it
heart,
closing.
one mind, one spirit. From the doorway in to the doorway out.